Hi, my name is Tom. I live in the St. Louis area, and this is a horror story about something that happened to me that almost fucked up my life forever. When I was 21 years old, I broke up with my first ever serious girlfriend, who I had been together with for 8 months. Needless to say, I was devastated. I fell into a deep depression. I began abusing painkillers and Xanax really heavily. I began looking for any girl I could find to rebound with. I ended up looking on the personal section on Craigslist and I found an ad for a girl named Stephanie. I began talking to her and we arranged to meet up. For making a long story short, we had sex and we decided to make it a regular thing. She was an old lady, about 35, and a bigger girl, but she had her own apartment and enough money to keep me loaded on as much drugs and alcohol as I wanted. To be honest, I kind of used this lady and used her as a sugar mama, for a lack of better word, I guess. After a while, she grew really attached to me and started to want a more serious relationship. Eventually, she started dropping hints about wanting to get married. She said she wanted to do this to help me out so she could get me on her insurance, so I can get help for my drug and alcohol problem, which I refused to consider. One day, we got into a big argument, and she told the police that I had been abusing her and got a temporary restraining order on me. A week after she did this, she called me crying her eyes out, saying, "Please forgive me, I love you," and all this other stuff, and said she wanted to come and pick me up and buy me some dope and alcohol and get me something to eat, and being the addict I am, I of course accepted. From the moment she picked me up, I noticed that she was acting kind of odd. She was usually really talkative and was always on my ass, wanting to talk to me about this and that, but on this day, she was oddly quiet. When we got back to her apartment after I walked in, she immediately pushed me on the couch, and to make another long story short, we had sex again. But something odd happened. She was angry that I had used protection. I had been getting bad vibes off of her the whole night, and after this happened, I immediately asked her for a ride back home, which she quickly agreed to do. After I got dropped off at the house, I went inside and I sat down with my sister and watched some SpongeBob with her. About 10 minutes after I was home, I got a call on the phone. I picked up the phone, and to my surprise, a lady on the other end said, "This is the St. Louis County Police Department. We're going to need you to come outside to talk to you." I ran downstairs and hid my weed and my pills, and then walked outside to figure out what the hell was going on. When I walked out, there were about 7 different cops on my porch. They were all pointing tasers and guns at me. One of them hit me in the back of my leg with a nightstick and put me on the ground and I was handcuffed. The cops then talked to my mom and got permission to go inside of the house, where they took a drug dog and began doing a thorough search of my room and my basement area. None of the cops on the scenes would tell me what was going on, and whenever I would ask a question like why they were doing this, they told me I would have to talk to the detective at the station. When I got to the police station, I had a bombshell dropped on me. Apparently, this lady has accused me of kidnapping her and raping her. She told the police that she had come by my house to return some of my stuff because we had just broken up, and that I had come out, hold a knife to her throat, and forced my way into her vehicle, took her back to her apartment, and raped her repeatedly. Thankfully, I had just remembered that we made a couple of stops on the way to her apartment. She had gone inside of a gas station to get a couple packs of cigarettes with me, so there was no way that I could have kidnapped her. Eventually, the police still swabbed my dick for DNA and they also took my clothes for the evidence. And I was forced to spend the night in the St. Louis County Jail wearing nothing but hospital scrubs. I was released the next morning, but my ordeal was far from over. This lady began constantly stalking me. She would call me every night at odd times from blocked numbers, and either crying into the phone or just beg to talk to me. I also began seeing her vehicle quite a lot in the neighborhood, even thought she lives nowhere close to me. I called the police about this a couple times, but they didn't really seem to care. They told me I would have to go get a restraining order on her in order to make it stop. I wanted nothing to do with the court system, so because I have a criminal record, and I just decided to ignore her and hope that the problem would go away. After a couple months, she finally did stop bothering me as much. However, to this day, sometimes I get calls at 2 or 3 in the morning from blocked numbers, and every new girlfriend I get, she messages them on Facebook and tells them how I raped her. Moral of the story, be careful who you meet online. Whether you're a guy or a girl, all it takes is one crazy person to completely ruin your life.